Before we get into this conversation, I want to let you guys know that this video is sponsored by AdamandEve.com. Adam and Eve has been providing marital aids for over 50 years, and they donate 20% of their proceeds to fighting against HIV and AIDS worldwide. If you'd like to join them in their fight against HIV and AIDS and also find something a little bit titillating for you and your partner or just yourself, I would definitely suggest going to AdamandEve.com, and they've managed to hook us up with a 50% discount if you go and put in the code CAT50 at checkout to get 50% off of one of your items. I've recently done this thing where I went and I actually bought clothes, I didn't make them myself, and I haven't ever had an occasion to wear this top, and I'm still trying to figure out if it's cute, you know? I can't exactly tell, but I know I'm cute. I know that's true. I know that's something we're really not even questioning that anymore. Last year, y'all begged me to watch this film called 365, which is about an Italian mobster who kidnaps a woman and forces her to fall in love with him within 365 days. And let's just say that it was questionable. It was very questionable material. And I'm here in this video to review what is the second installment of what I understand is a trilogy. 365 This Day is based on Blaque Lipin's, I don't know how to say her name. I'm an American. But 365 This Day is based on the second installment of the 365 trilogy. And believe it or not, the BDSM is actually not the worst part of this film. If you're just tuning into this channel, my name is katblaque and I am a BDSM submissive, and we've been doing this thing on this channel where I watch films about BDSM and I try to figure out how much they relate to my real experiences in the BDSM community. And I thought that we would give this a view because the last film ended on an incredibly dramatic note. She had just figured out that she was pregnant. She had just accepted his proposal, and things ended with her going under a bridge and getting into a mysterious accident. So I'll be honest, the part of me that likes very soap opera-esque kind of things really was looking forward to seeing where this story goes. And let me just tell you, it really didn't go anywhere, but we're getting ahead of ourselves. Let's get into the spoiler-free summary of 365 Days This Day. Like I said, the last film ended with Laura getting into a mysterious accident after discovering that she was pregnant. And when this film begins, we learn that she actually lost her baby in that accident. She talks to Olga, her best friend, who is living with her now in Sicily, and she shares that this is something that she doesn't want to talk about with Massimo because she knows that Massimo tends to be a little OD. Massimo and Laura have an absolutely gorgeous wedding and honeymoon, but there's trouble in paradise. See, because Laura was in this accident, Massimo's being a little overbearing. He's following her everywhere she goes, and she really starts to feel suffocated by him. She communicates with him that she doesn't really like this, and interestingly enough, Massimo seems to be receptive to this. But just in time for Massimo's much needed character development moment, Laura meets a very sexy Spanish gardener named Nacho. Yes, that is his actual nickname throughout most of the movie. So they go on to have this really idyllic looking Christmas. I mean, it looked like a fucking Hallmark movie. And Massimo decides to give Laura the present of a clothing shop. Towards the end of the Christmas party, Massimo's curious what Laura's gift is going to be to him. And when they get back to their room, Laura's gift is a reenactment of the first BDSM scene that they ever did. The scene goes really, really well. They're in this sort of post-coitus bliss, and they start speaking about their family. And Massimo mentions that he has a brother that he would rather not have. The fact that Laura had never heard about this brother before really upset her to the point where she tries to start an argument with Massimo, who of course doesn't have any patience for it and simply walks away from the conversation. Massimo and Laura go to a ball. Once again, this series loves balls for some reason. They go to this ball and she's really wanting to talk to Massimo about this brother that he's not comfortable discussing, and he's avoiding the conversation, and he gets up and once again walks away. Laura decides to wander through the party and she sees Massimo from a distance speaking to this really gorgeous woman. Of course, this concerns Laura. So she runs up and follows them. And when she does, she walks into a room where she sees them having sex. Laura is obviously heartbroken, so she storms out of the ball, and guess who happens to be driving up in his car just at that opportune moment? Well, it's our sexy Spanish gardener, Nacho. Laura decides to run away with Nacho, and the rest of the film is basically just them falling in love and us discovering what Nacho's true identity is, and also the true identity of Massimo's brother. And that's basically the film, honestly. And believe it or not, like I said, the BDSM is actually not the worst part of this film. Overall, this is certainly a film where things happen. I'll give it that. But if you're looking for a movie with like a good story or an entertaining plot, this probably isn't the movie for you. But if you're into like really high quality sex scenes that are almost porn, but not quite, you will absolutely love this movie. I think it's a great movie to watch with a bottle of rosé and some girlfriends, but I would not tell anyone to go watch this movie. Now, to my understanding, the 365 trilogy is supposed to be a sexier version of 50 Shades of Grey, and I think that it absolutely succeeded on that point and probably nothing else. But before we talk about what I didn't like about this film, let's talk about what I did like. So as I said, I think the best part of this film, interestingly enough, was the BDSM. In the last movie, all of the BDSM is very much something that Laura is being pressured into doing. Obviously, she is kidnapped and he wants to do all these things with her and she just kind of has to tolerate it. But this is a film where let's just like overlook the fact that she was kidnapped and this is all of a terrible situation. If we look at the BDSM scenes on their own, extracting all other context, there is a lot of really good stuff within them. The scenes that happen in the movie are ones where Laura is clearly defining how things will be. She clearly has a voice. Massimo is receptive to what she says. And I think that the BDSM in this film is so much more mutual than things that we've seen in the past. And it's interesting to watch a film where a woman is very much into BDSM actively, because a lot of the movies that we've seen are basically about some man pressuring some woman into doing something she's not quite into, and then them eventually liking it. It's clear to me that Laura, in comparison to other similar characters, is more liberated, more in tune with what she likes sexually, and I think that that's a really great thing to see. It's really refreshing to see a female character who is actually interested in BDSM and isn't simply tolerating it for the man that she's interested in. I liked seeing, I mean, I don't like seeing, but it was refreshing to see a man go down on a woman. You don't often see that in sex scenes, and so, you know, I'm not gonna say that that part was bad, because I don't think it was, right? But that's it. That's all the film, in my view, has going for it. So again, if you overlook like literally everything about the way that we got to this point, it's not that bad. But let's talk about everything else that is. So my general overall note about this film is it felt incredibly low quality. And when I say that, what I mean is there's a noticeable quality drop from the previous film, at least from what I can see. It seemed like overall this film had less planning. And to my understanding, the author of the books is a cosmetologist. And I definitely felt like there was a lot of focus on making sure that every character looked attractive on screen, but not much of a focus on any of the filmmaking aspects. Now, maybe this is me wanting too much from this film because I know that these films are not supposed to be like the apex of cinema, but you know, it to me felt a lot like there were these scenes that they had planned out in terms of them happening, but not so much in terms of how they were filmed. Once again, for me, the music really killed this film. I mean, a lot of the music is by the actor who plays Massimo, who I believe is called Michele Morrone. And it's just, I don't know, like his music, and this is gonna make me sound maybe a little mean, but you know the really handsome guy in your hometown who is technically a good singer, but never really goes further than the church. And maybe he takes a foray into making secular music. Like, that's kind of what his music reminds me of. Very much that vibe of like, he's not a bad singer by any means. He is actually quite talented, but there's something about it that doesn't feel quality. I can't really put my finger on it, but that's just kind of how it felt. And a lot of the music throughout the movie felt very reality TV quality, especially in the way that it was used. They used a lot of music in between transition scenes, which felt a little bit like you were just watching The Housewives or something. It didn't really feel like a movie as much as it felt like a series of tableaus where things certainly happen and are vaguely related to each other. I mean, most of this film is about adding in padding to get to the sex scenes. Now, I know that this is problematic or whatever, but I am a huge fan of mobster films. And there's a part of me that is kind of upset with the fact that this movie had what I feel could have been a decent premise for at least interesting movie, and it just didn't really do it. I mean, a lot of the choices that were made in this film were just bad, cringy choices, you know, a sexy Spanish gardener named Nacho. I get that it's supposed to be kind of funny, but it just felt like slightly elevated porn, like slightly. Michele Morrone is an attractive man. I think he is, of the Dommy McDobersons, the most attractive, but that's really all. From start to finish, this film felt so lazy and so void of really anything. A lot of the plot points just fall to the wayside. I mean, we do discover kind of what happened to her underneath the bridge, but not really. And something that I had a hard time with is, how is Massimo such an overbearing person, but somehow he wouldn't know that she had a miscarriage? I imagine that if she went through a miscarriage, she probably went to the hospital, and I don't understand a version of this Massimo character that wouldn't know that. So for me, it kind of felt like it was drama for the sake of drama. It wasn't really thought out. But again, I don't think that these movies are trying to be a paradigm of cinema. It just, to me, it was like, if you just made a few different writing decisions, it probably would have gone in a better direction. I don't know. Ultimately, again, I think the film accomplished the goal of being a sexier version of 50 Shades of Grey, but 50 Shades, now, I can't believe I'm about to say this, but 50 Shades was more well written, you know? 50 Shades, at the very least, felt like it had some writing chops to it. I can't believe I'm saying that, but that's where we're at. That's how bad, in my view, this film is. Like, these characters, none of them really make sense. All this film really had to offer, in my opinion, were really well choreographed and shot sex scenes that had, I think, some good examples of negotiation. But as much as I hate BDSM porn, You can find BDSM porn that has that and is better than this. Probably more well written too. It's just a bunch of tropes and tableaus, and I'm bored of these hoes. I couldn't like not do that. That's my feeling on 365 this day. Will I watch the third movie when it comes out? Only if you make me. On that note, that's gonna conclude this review for this month. Let me know what you guys would like for me to watch next month. I'm looking for films about BDSM, films about, you know, things that are vaguely related to BDSM. So give me some suggestions in the comment box below. I'd really appreciate it. Anyway, on that note, I will see you guys next time. Bye.